All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Amazon News and Updates for February 2021. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing this live. So we're live on LinkedIn. Going forward, we're going to be recording this episode live probably in the first week of every month for the prior month. So if anyone wants to hear it live, and then we'll have a section at the end for Q&A. We are going to be recording this and posting it in our normal e-commerce deep dive feed as our normal monthly update with the updates that Kyle and I are going to be going through. After that, we're going to do Q&A, and we're not going to be recording that, so people can feel like they can ask candid questions. We can give candid answers, and we'll keep that out of the official recorded podcast. But I guess before we get started, I'll introduce my guest here, regular guest, Kyle Olson. Kyle, thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John.
So we have a pretty good list here in front of us for February. A lot of things going on Amazon. We have some updates kind of in general and operational issues. We have a couple updates related to content and catalog. And then we have a handful in the advertising bucket. So I guess let's just dive right into it here in our general Amazon bucket. Our first one is extreme weather impacts in February.
Yeah, so probably not a surprise to anyone just having watched the news and depending on where you live. But obviously, we saw pretty widespread storms throughout the month of February, pretty much in the entire US, mainly Texas, but also to a degree in the Northwest as well as the Northeast. Just with the crazy snowstorms, cold weather, et cetera. Given the length of time that those kind of disrupted things like logistics, the ability to open warehouses, ability to ship and deliver product, saw quite a bit of volatility on Amazon as well as I'm sure everywhere else. But just caused some interesting dynamics with Amazon, at least from our lens, in terms of sales performance, things like advertising performance, just as consumers shifted what they were focusing on for weeks at a time during the month, as well as just the lack of ability to actually get product to many of those customers. So that seems to have mostly kind of corrected and leveled out as of now. But definitely were a couple of weeks of craziness there. Amazon had actually suspended several of their chargebacks for late deliveries and things of that nature. We saw quite a bit of shifting to third-party offers simply because their facilities couldn't turn things around and thought that might be an easier way to fill demand that was still present. And quite a bit of just general volatility, like I said. I think in some cases, looking at sales at a state level, sales to Texas were down something like 50+% for the majority of accounts that we were tracking there. So lots of impacts there that affected kind of week over week comps and things like that. But again, seems to have normalized up until now as Amazon has mostly caught up in terms of clearing through that and customers being able to function normally at this point for the most part.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. One thing I'll just expand on a little bit, and you mentioned this, but consumer behavior was dramatically impacted in certain regions for obvious reasons. You have other things on your mind besides shopping online during a massive snowstorm. Advertising metrics, as a result, were really wacky for a couple of those weeks. So just make sure when you're doing your reporting, when you're looking at week over week, month over month performance, you have a very big asterisk next to a couple of those weeks. So. Okay, great. So other kind of non-weather related shipping and freight issues is next on our list.
Yeah, so just additional weird logistic issues in this case that have been happening for a couple of months now, but really lingering and continuing for the foreseeable future, mainly around container shortages, issues getting product out of China, and a lot of things kind of in that realm. We just continue to see the impacts of that, downstream with those container shortages, port backups, things of that nature, and starting to see that have a bit more of a direct impact on what we're seeing on the platform, just with things like inventory availability, fill rates, a lot of just delays and issues on the direct import side, especially for your 1P, even your central accounts. And there seems to be a shift in prioritization on kind of getting things out of China just based on product that has higher margins, obviously to make kind of the most out of these backlogs and delays. So something to keep a pretty close eye on moving forward. One, if you're doing direct import or you're ready to restock from China, obviously you're directly impacted by this. But even if you have a good amount of kind of domestic inventory, or you manufacture, domestically or what have you, keeping a pulse on the competition there to see if and how that plays out based on, again, just general backlogs and issues. Having enough capacity to get stuff overseas, likely going to drag out from what we've seen for a good couple of weeks. So.
Yeah. The container issue, especially, I know is pretty dramatic right now. So
yeah.
Okay, good. So moving on to content and catalog updates. The first one on our list here is A+ Content API.
Yeah, so Amazon updated an API to support editing and creating A+ content. So they've had various content feeds that have been supported electronically before, but that never extended to A+ or enhanced content up until this point. So pretty big shift to support that. Obviously, having A+ on all of your listings is very much a best practice. So really helping streamline that process for entities that are able to connect and do that programmatically through the API. So just a general big win there, an opportunity for clients that have larger catalogs or, again, are doing heavy content work. And also just kind of pushes the needle a bit on Amazon getting more open on the retail side with APIs in general. Kind of continuing their slow shift away from traditional EDI and getting more sort of proactive outside of just basic, purchase order confirmations and things like that, getting beyond just getting information out of the system, but having better back and forth communication through a modernized API is just another step in that direction, which is definitely a huge efficiency and time saver if you're able to sync into that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure there's going to be more news in future episodes as that gets rolled out and we kind of have some more nuanced understanding of how it's working.
Hey there, I'm Dave Zimmerman with Orca Pacific. I hope you're enjoying the show. I wanted to let you know this episode is brought to you by Orca Pacific, a Mighty Hive company. We're a full-service agency exclusively focused on Amazon with capabilities for everything a brand needs to succeed on the platform. From advertising strategy, content development and SEO, to merchandising and marketing. If it relates to driving and converting demand on the platform, our dedicated teams are leaders in this space. Our robust suite of services includes expertise on the back end as well, from operational support, demand forecasting and planning, to the right fulfillment options, and higher level strategies like long-term planning, channel management, and access to beta programs. To learn more, visit our website at www.orcapac.com. That's ORCAPAC.com. And a business development manager will get you up to speed on how we can accelerate your Amazon business. Now, back to the show.
All right, the next one in terms of catalog, this is a kind of an oddball, radio frequency compliance.
Yeah, so we've talked on a lot of these kind of random one-off compliance types updates over the past couple of months, pesticide requirements, various hazmat things that are all fairly specific in terms of what they represent. But this is the latest announcement specifically with RF devices. And the long and the short of it is Amazon really requiring or pushing for better compliance and FCC certification to make sure really they're just covering their bases on a compliance perspective from a documentation and safety point of view. I think this is a bit different than some of those other ones that we've seen roll out over the past couple of months, simply because of the breadth of product that this can potentially impact. RF is pretty far-reaching in terms of almost any electronic device, at least as far as the FCC kind of considers that. So where a lot of the other ones that we mentioned, again, things like pesticide usage, hazmat requirements, et cetera, are a bit more obvious and limited in scope. This one might have far-reaching kind of ramifications based on your catalog. If you have batteries, if you have obviously plugs or anything electronic. So really another compliance related thing that is kind of going to have to roll into an auditing process to make sure those are documented properly, just to allow or prevent items getting pulled off site, or just prolong delays in getting new items set up if you don't have that documentation kind of on hand and ready to go.
Yeah, I want to add more value here. I mean, I think that this is a really important thing to call out. It may seem kind of in the weeds or really specific, but one thing to understand about Amazon, if you have any compliance issues, the burden is really on you as the supplier to be proactive and to adhere to Amazon's new compliance regulation, unlike other retailers where that would get flagged before they purchase the product. On Amazon, they can have the product, it can be live, and for all intents and purposes, everything can appear completely fine. And then just seemingly arbitrarily or overnight, all your product or a big part of your catalog can be pulled. And it's very much a kind of, shoot first, ask questions later policy where they pull everything and then it's up to you to go through the compliance hoops to get it back on the site, which can take months. So you're much, much better off getting out ahead of that, going through the new requirements to prevent items from being pulled in the first place. So that's my strong recommendation on that front. Great. Moving on to advertising. The first one on our list is sponsored display audiences.
Yeah, so just another rollout of Amazon expanding existing capabilities to more of their marketplaces. In this case, really pushing out sponsored display audiences, which is essentially their first-party shopper data option to target within self-service display. So that had been available in the US and a handful of other countries, now pushed out with support in the Ad Console and Advertising API in Canada, Germany, Spain, and a handful of other countries throughout the EU. Again, a further kind of expansion of full coverage, so to speak, from their ad suite in more of their marketplaces. We have a handful of these come up every month where they're just continuing to scale those out. Typically, a new one will launch in one marketplace, and then once kind of the kinks get worked out, push that out to more. So just the latest step in that direction, and a continued kind of elevation of the ad tools that Amazon's making available across all of their marketplaces globally.
Great. Next one on the list, DSP Video Creative Builder.
Yeah, so another new rollout where for DSP, they've created essentially a self-service video editor, which will allow you to, one, just more easily get video campaigns up and running if you already have video content, and do so in a templatized way that's a bit more cohesive with kind of the Amazon branding or format, so to speak, for consistency on their side. But also helps you create videos for brands that don't have video content. So it's set up in a way that you could take existing imagery and essentially create somewhat of a slideshow type video. So you could participate in those creatives, but not have to invest a ton of money or go to a studio or record a very professional video. Obviously, the end result will be a bit more, again, templatized and kind of slideshow oriented, but much quicker and easier, again, than investing in a whole process of getting video to see if those video type placements work and perform for you, and see if it makes sense to lean into those more with perhaps more robust content. So just a way for easier access to that ad type through DSP.
Great. Awesome. All right. Last on our list, brand store followers.
Yeah, so Amazon rolled out a couple of months ago, I believe, an ability to follow brand store specifically. So they've had this in a variety of ways on site to basically track or follow brands, products, different kind of influencers, things like that. And that's just becoming more visible. And we've seen an uptick in actual interaction there at a brand store level specifically over the past couple of weeks. So wanted to call that out just as a further point of value on the brand store for customers that follow your brand on Amazon specifically. They'll simply see more of your brand experience throughout the site, whether that's kind of curated targeting with advertisements, organic placements, a little more catering within the search algorithm, and different things of that nature. So it's a pretty easy way just to get more exposure by making sure your brand store is clean, it's robust, and it's being utilized both on and off Amazon to just continue pushing your brand out on the platform.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, this wraps up the kind of news and updates section of today's show. So for those of you listening to this recorded, we're going to end here. If you all could subscribe and go in and leave us a review or rating, it would be most appreciated.